From Sugar 23, I'm Angela Ledgerwood, and this is Lit Up. I have Samantha Irby on Lit Up this week. She is one of the funniest people I've ever met, and I was lucky enough to speak to her many, many years ago, and I have invited her back on the pod to talk about her new collection of essays, Quietly Hostile, probably one of the best titles out there. As well as being a brilliant essayist, Sam is also a TV writer. She worked on Shrill and also on the Sex and the City reboot and Just Like That. So we're going to talk a lot about what it's like to be a TV writer and be in a TV writer's room. And I wanted to let you know that we recorded this before the WGA writer's strike, so we don't get into that. I hope you love this episode. Sam just brings so much life to our world, and she is so hilarious. So here we go. Cannot believe the last time we spoke must have been 2017. I think it was for We Are Never Meeting in Real Life.
Yes. What? We should be talking on the regular. What? I mean, not even
I
on the
know.
podcast.
And I feel like I watch everything you do, and I remember your glasses then. I think you'd just got these sharp glasses, like Prada ones, like they were super chic.
Ew. What did I do with those? What happened? Do you still live in New York?
So I do live in New York, but I am engaged now. So I have much advice as I enter married life, which we can get into.
Okay.
Well, so I'm out on the North Fork of Long Island right now in this cottage that we have and trying to make the transition out here.
He lives out there?
He does. He goes back and forth from the city as well, but is out here more. Just so as I was reading the essay about fridges and eating, I thought, oh my God, maybe we don't need premarital therapy on the big things, but
it's true.
The eating.
I feel like the big things you're aligned on, right? Like you wouldn't marry someone who had a completely opposite, political, unless you're into that, right? But it's the little stuff and the things you can't know until you live with someone, like how many jars. I would never think to ask, how many jars of mustard are in your fridge? And I should have, because my wife has 14 different mustards that all seem to do the same thing, but they're all required to be in the fridge. And it's that is who do you notice when the toilet paper is low? Those are the kinds of questions that we need to be asking each other before marriage, so we know, what to expect and whether or not that's something we want to sign up for.
No, this one thing is that Anthony is his name. He tries to sneak turnips into a stew or into a dish. And I think, they bug me. Why? There's something going on, and the turnip is the main, character in some psychodrama we're having.
You hate them and he likes them?
Yes, but I don't even think he likes them
He's just
so much.
You?
I think he's learnt that I don't like them. So sometimes they're just put in there. So we have to get to the bottom of that. I actually don't hate them, and now it's kind of a joke, but we've got to work that out before we say I do.
Yes. No, you you really do. Okay, you and I are gonna write a very specific relationship pamphlet. It's not gonna be a whole book. but pamphlet about
Yes.
what to ask or what to do before you commit your entire life to someone who's going to get on your nerves. And like, that's natural, but you know, maybe we could help them get on our nerves less.
My mind is going to so many places, and I think I can't air all our dirty laundry on this
Anthony's gonna
podcast
listen
with
and
you
be
and
like,
work through it.
You hate what? You hate my mom? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
I love Janie.
Oh, I have a sister named Janie. So his mom's obviously great. My sister, not so much, but
Well, yeah, I read about that in one of the essays. I mean, my way into this book was reading that New Yorker essay, the party one. And like, how are you feeling? You're about to go on a book tour, which sounds
I'm doing
kind of frightening.
I know. It's been a long time. Like my last book came out like truly 2 minutes before lockdown, right? So I couldn't go anywhere, which was like a dream. I did like virtual everything. Through my local bookstore, we mailed books to people, and I could still like draw pictures of rectums or whatever it is I draw in these books. So like that was great. Although I love to be in a room full of people who love me. Don't get me wrong. But it is a little daunting because I haven't done it in such a long time. And the plane of it all, the like, you know, I, knock wood, have not gotten COVID ever. And I'm not trying to do it to sell these books. But I'm ready to see a few people. I've broken up the tour. I was gonna do it all now, but I can't. So I'm gonna do a little New York, Philly, Chicago, and then in the fall, Lindy West and I are going to do a driving tour, which will be great. We tried to find a
the
bus
best
to like put our faces on the side. Or not we. Random House tried to find a bus, but they couldn't. Maybe by the fall we'll get like, I don't know, a hot dog, the Oscar Mayer Wienermobile or something, and we can drive that.
I think you just have to put that request out on social, and people would be honored to have their bus transformed.
Oh my God. Can you, I
want to find one for you just so I can come. I'll drive it. I'll drive the damn thing.
Yes. So I got it. I'm fairly easy at like getting back into the groove, you know, like once on stage. But the hard part for me, which I am like currently drowning in, is the like, what do I wear? You know, like how do I not look stupid in front of people? I was just talking to someone this morning about how, you know, when you're like in your 20s, people are like, turn 30, everything shakes out. And it's like, okay, that didn't happen. And they're like, okay, wait, when you're 40, then you're really going to feel comfortable in your skin. You're going to know yourself, blah, blah, blah. I am 43, has not happened yet. And so, like, part of that is when I know I'm going to see people, I'm like, everything I have is terrible. Nothing looks good on me. I don't have any clothes. And I do have clothes, but I have ordered different clothes and am currently in the like, how do I present myself to the world phase of this.
I think that's a really important part, because that anxiety that can happen before an event when you're throwing, like everything becomes a complete chaos in a room, it just derails everything.
Yes. Yeah.
What about and just like that, wardrobe people? Can someone like help you? Like you might come out with like a fuchsia bow hat, but you could do that. They'd be
what
great.
I have at my disposal. Molly, now I'm sure Molly is Well, no, we're done shooting. Maybe she's free. Maybe I'll hit her up and be like, how much does it cost for you to style me? And can you bill that to HBO and not me?
Exactly.
It's
Exactly. No,
working
but I
on that
think that's a
show as a non-fashion person. That's why I don't go to set. I did not go to set because I did not be around those beautiful people in their chic clothes, and I'm like wearing a garbage bag with.
no, but that shouldn't be a reason not to go and on something you created.
It. Set is intimidating as a writer because like I don't know the ins and outs, right? I don't know, like I kind of know what a gaffer is, but come on, not really. So I don't really know any of the like practical stuff, and I could pitch jokes. I'm sure they would love if I was there to be like, that joke sucks, here's a different one. But it's so intimidating, like everyone is like so famous and put together and like smells good and looks nice that I'm like, I don't want to like get any of my dirt. The dirt
Stop.
cloud that surrounds me, like the little kid in Peanuts. Um, I don't want to get that on them. It and also like that's my funny answer, but my serious answer is set is very boring and very long. And they don't need me sitting there for 12 hours a day falling asleep.
Well, also, you might not want them to get used to you being there,
Right.
right? Because then you don't want to be called back
Right.
for that
Right. Yeah, and
as
HBO
well.
is like very clear that my contract does not include getting paid to be on set. So I was like, okay, well, we understand each other. I will be in Michigan and you guys have a great time filming in New York. I mean, but you also know that New York is not really my town.
I'm going to reserve ideas about New York now because I feel like it's such a complicated place. But I mean, what does it feel like to create a show that feels so quintessentially New York and then get to be in Michigan, but also get to watch something and watch how people react to it? That distance might be nice.
Mhm. It is because I'm not like steeped, I'm not walking past the bodega with like, you know, pictures of the show on the front of the newspaper or whatever, right? Like it's a much smaller deal here. I had only worked on much smaller things before I worked on it just like that. And so I truly, and this it makes me feel foolish to say it, but it's true. I truly did not anticipate. I don't think I understood that like everyone was gonna watch this and have opinions about it and whatever. And I that to me was just like so overwhelming. The New York of it all, listen, there are New Yorkers who work on the show who can make it New Yorky. I wasn't there for that. So it didn't, and I know like I started watching the show, I was 19 when it came out, and I have been a devoted watcher, of over and over and over episodes. So I felt like I really knew the characters and like everyone in the writer's room. Like Michael Patrick King is just like the funniest. Like he's so quick and he's so funny. And everyone is like so nice and like welcoming that didn't feel weird at all. So it was just like bring your ideas. Every one of them is perfect. Just keep pitching stuff. You're great. So like that felt good. I didn't have to come up with any New York stuff. I wouldn't have been able to. The reaction, I was so, I really was caught off guard by Okay, here's the thing about the internet and the world right now, that one of the many things that I have a problem with, but it's like you never know who means what they're saying or who anyone
Yeah.
is, right? So like the deluge of opinions about, it's like, are those bots? Are those children? Are those people who are just saying something to be funny but they don't mean it? And it only happens when when it's a like big thing. This was my first time um kind of like being under the microscope on something like this big, and hearing all the reactions and all that stuff. And it was after season 1, it was like hard because I was like so emotionally tied to it. There's something about, it's interesting. People are always like, "Oh, how can you like tell so much in your books? Like, how can you be so personal?" I feel much less protective of my own life than I do of like fictional characters that, that I have dreamed up things for them to be doing. And this is not to say that anything was like on me in terms of the show. It was bracing. It was like a wake up call for me. I don't know how. I mean, I know how I got through it. I got off Twitter. I changed all my Instagram settings so people couldn't tag me. Like I wrote it in the book, but like some lady tagged me calling me a murderer because Mr. Big died in the first episode, and I was like, murderer. You know what I mean? Like, murderer. That is not anything you ever expect for anyone on the internet to say at all, let alone about like a fictional character that you didn't invent. So, like, having that kind of visibility and that sort of like, oh, they added black and brown people. Clearly, everything we hate about the show comes from the new black and brown people. And I was like, I just want to, and there's no way to be like, I didn't invent that. I didn't write that scene that you hated. I didn't, like there's a chain of people and executives above me who okay all these things. But like I was a visible person that people could lash out at, and that happened. But it's all right, We'll see. The new season's coming out next month. We'll see if people continue to hate my guts.
Well, it's also the type of thing where people can say they don't like it or they don't like a scene, but they watch the thing,
Yes.
don't they?
And we
They keep
know, like,
watching.
that
So the
people watch.
numbers
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
don't
I think
lie.
that's what's hard for me too. And this is like in general, not specifically about this, but like, not to be a Pollyanna about it, but when people are like disingenuous about a a piece of art, books, whatever, it's just like it makes it that much harder as either the person who made it or another person who wants to participate in it. Like, it's like, I don't know if that was actually bad or if you just like hate this publisher and so you're shitting on the book. It makes like recommendation. I think like the sweet shit about being connected online is like, oh, you watched a thing, I'll watch that thing. Oh, you listened to an album, I'll listen to that. You loved it, I love it. But like when people are not honest, then it makes
Well,
things unnecessarily difficult.
This episode is brought to you by the new Disney Plus original series, American Born Chinese. Based on the graphic novel by Jean Luen Yang, American Born Chinese tells the story of an average teenager that becomes entangled in a battle with Chinese mythological gods. This star-studded cast includes Academy Award winners Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan, plus Daniel Wu, Jim Liu, and Ben Wang. American Born Chinese, premiering May 24, exclusively on Disney Plus.
well, I think it's coming back to your first essay. I like it.
Yes.
Just saying, you know what? I like it.
Yeah. It's Angela.
Can you tell us a bit about that and why?
Yes.
I think that is so incredibly helpful and powerful for people. And I heard you talking about it first with Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach, who I just adore. And after you talk about this, you have to tell the story of how you became friends with them, because I was on a bus laughing.
Wait, when they were at that soccer game?
Yes.
Okay. You know, the internet is big, but it's also very small. And I think Glennon and I were we followed each other on Twitter, maybe. I don't know how we first connected online, but we did. And I ended up, and she's very generous and gave me her phone number and her email. And I promise you that I am not typically an abuser of phone numbers or emails. So I was in the work in progress writer's room, which was very queer, right? Extremely gay. And to impress one of my coworkers, I was like, I have Abby and Glennon's phone number. I could FaceTime them. And I did. And it was the first time ever reaching out. And I was like, could y'all say hi to these people I work with who love you and make me look like I have proximity to fame? And they did. They saved me from looking like an asshole. So I am forever indebted to Glennon and Abby for acting like we were really close friends.
I have one example which didn't work out that well. Is when I was younger and in LA, I sat next to Robert Pattinson, who was the Twilight guy, in a casting. And he was so lovely. This was before anything. And we were chatting. He was like, "You're Australian." He goes, "I'm looking for someone for one of my short films." And we swapped phone numbers he was like, "We'll connect. That sounds great." Anyway, almost a month later, I saw him at a party and he was flanked by, the agents and then this and then that, because I guess he may have shot Twilight, but didn't, they didn't know. Anyway, cut to 8 years later, I'm in New York and I am trying to impress, I think, a colleague as well. And I was like, well, when I was at Cosmo, I was like, well, I have this story and I still have his number. And we called it, but it wasn't his number anymore. And then I was like, damn it. But a guy did answer, but it was obviously not him. And so he must have changed numbers after the fame.
Did he hear your voice and propose? Because you know how I feel about your voice. I would have been
if only that might have been.
Up. I'll be whoever you want me to be.
Exactly.
Okay.
But I just love that story so much about Glennon and Abby, because they were such good sports. Yes. And it kind of, if you roll with it, then you're like, oh, okay, we're done here. We forged a bond.
Yes, and I was like, Abby texted me once and was like, first of all, getting a text, I almost threw up. But she texted me once and was like, hey, I was listening to your audiobook while running. And I don't know them that well, right? So I, of course, being me, wrote back, what's running? I've never heard of it. And then I was like, then she took a long time to respond. And I was like, that's it. I fucked up. I made a dumb joke.
No.
She thinks, I don't know, maybe she thinks I'm making fun of her. But then she did text back and was like, haha. And I was like, whew. Okay, I'm going to tell you about I Like It.
Tell us about it, because I've already been thinking of how I can use it and when. And so we need everyone to just embrace this.
Okay, good. I am easily shamed, and I feel shame all the time. And I'm always trying to free myself of it, because it's truly like the most useless emotion in some cases. It's good for people that like have the kind of shame that prevents them from humiliating themselves in public, but feeling bad about who they are or what they like is a waste of time for everyone. So the story I put in the book, which is real, our neighbor wanted a dry cleaner recommendation. And I was like, this is the one I go to. I wasn't like, I love this one. I swear by this. I wouldn't let anyone else touch my clothes. I was just like, I go here. It's close to where I take the dog to daycare. I go here. So, like, I don't even know how much later, weeks, months, who knows. She was at the door and, like, talking about something else. And I was like, all right, whatever. And then she's like, oh my God, by the way, that
Oh.
the mall where you go to the dry cleaner is so depressing. And my instinct in that moment was to apologize, right? Like, I don't even know what I would have said. Like, oh, I'm sorry you had to look at those ugly bricks or whatever it was. And I was just like, there was like something in my brain that was like, don't apologize to this person. Like, why is she trying to have power over you? Like I'm saying all this while she's like blathering at me from the porch. And then she like did the thing where she stopped and waited for me to apologize or make an excuse. And I just was like, I like it. And she didn't. Just the jaw, you could hear it shatter as it hit her breastplate. And I just kept saying, like, I like it. It's been good for me. I like it. And there's nothing, no one can argue with you about what you like. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for the things you like. And so then you're just, and like you have to sort of be comfortable with a little bit of awkwardness. But you should, because you should be comfortable because you're winning, right? If you pull out, I like it,
Yes.
you've won the debate. And so we both just sort of stood there and I was just like, yeah, I like that strip mall. And honestly, it's fine. Like, okay, I would go in
No, but it's not
there.
the point.
But since she talks shit about it, I have to act like it's the greatest dry cleaner I've ever been to in my life. So I was like, I love it. They do such a good job. Also, like the yogurt spot in the mall. Delicious. I don't care about the frozen yogurt spot in the strip mall, but like for my purposes, it was perfect to be like, yeah, I love everything over there. I have never wanted, now in my youth, ever wanted to like stop someone from doing a thing they want to do. I'm sure you've met people who are like, oh, that book you're reading. And it's like, I don't give a fuck what you read. Does that make you happy? Well, great, read that. Or like, just like being judgmental about things like low stakes television watching. I, that's gross. And if you do it to me, I'm going to embarrass you by just being like, I love it. Oh, you hate that show? I think it's great. I watched every episode 6 times. It's great.
Yeah, also talked about is the idea of the expert, and like what you're an expert in is your life.
Yeah.
And so you will write about your life. Yeah. And we are in this moment of everyone having an opinion on every current event that happens without actually knowing what really is happening in the news or foreign policy or any of these things. But there seems like this pressure to respond online. I'm like, there's no need. No, and I feel like it's hard to even express some opinions that you need to work through.
Yeah.
But unless you have kind of a crew of people who are like, I'm not going to judge you. Let's just talk this through. Mm-hmm. But you certainly can't do that online.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like no room for you to learn and grow. Which again, it just is, it's so hard. You know what I mean? If you have to be locked into the person you were yesterday and a week ago and a year ago and when you were 15, it's like, well, no one's, jumps out of the womb like perfectly progressive and having the appropriate stance on everything. It's like we got to learn that. And even as adults, we got to learn that. The sort of like you're good, you're not good is so I don't want to say it just is like disheartening to me. I feel like we miss a lot when you just dismiss people. And like maybe you miss a lot when you laud someone who you haven't dug that deeply into. You know what I mean? It's a mess.
In terms of the writing for film and TV and the writer's room, are you going into any physical writer's room now? And does that ever help?
Not
What?
since
Pretty much,
COVID.
I'm like, how the hell do people? What are they like? I still work adjacent to Hollywood, and I am still like, it racks my brain. Like, I got a script sent on Friday, which I was so excited. It was from a book. And I was still like, how does this work? This a studio draft? Like, what?
I feel like that all the time when like it's like goldenrod draft, pink draft, blue. I don't know what any of those things mean. It's all just I'm like that's for somebody at a higher pay grade than me. I'm not going to worry about it. I was in an in-person room in Chicago in like January, February, March 2020. Then the pandemic
Right.
happened.
And you
And
write
yep,
about
and we
that,
had
which
to.
the anxiety. Thank you for the anxiety. That's
You're
all I'll
welcome. It
say.
is the gift.
Remembering that time.
It is my gift to you. In the room, I've only been in rooms with like very funny people. Shrill was in person as well, like in 2018. And for me, it was just, I get so self conscious that, like, being in a room with other people, I'm like, can they tell my mind is wandering? Do I look like I'm paying attention? And it's like easy to feed off each other, but it's also like they can see me. In the Zoom writer's room, I mean, Tuca and Birdie was on Zoom and just like that was on Zoom for both seasons. And I think because you don't want to sit on a Zoom for 8 hours, it was like, we're going to do this in 4 hours. And instead of like fucking around and making jokes, we're just going to be working all the time. So the Zoom life really like was working for me, but I do miss, the camaraderie of like being with other people.
It's a balance, isn't it? But I can imagine, especially being in Michigan, it helps.
Oh,
You have your own beautiful life
yeah.
at home.
Yeah. I love a get in, get out, look at your face, see that you exist and are feeling good, and then go like do my own thing the rest of the day.
Well, your book Meaty was set for adaptation, and you write about that in the book as well. Do you feel now like, oh, thank God we could do that so differently than it was being imagined then? I mean, I had an idea that I wanted to write a memoir like in my 20s. I'm pretty glad that never happened. It never came out. Any feelings like that?
Seeing the reaction to And Just Like That because it was on TV and everyone watched it, I was like, thank God that the fictional representation of my actual self is never gonna be Angela, I don't know what I would do. I had a hard enough time like having, like, when you can reject anything of mine anytime, right? I have no problem being edited, nothing. But it it doesn't like hurt my feelings. But when you spend years and years working on a script about yourself and they don't tell you, like, this is why we don't want it, right? Like, when you reach the end of the road, throughout the course of it, it's like, oh, well, what if this happened in this act? Or we lost her motivation. Like, all that stuff is fine. But when you reach the end of the road and they're like, no, no one tells you why, right? And I have learned, like, just from, being a novice in this industry, that, like, it could be anything. It could be they don't have money right now because they paid somebody else, or they have 3 similar shows, or they don't want a gay show, or they don't want a fat show, or they don't want that. You don't get any of that. Like, no one tells you the why. I just had a project passed on, and I did get a why, but the why was vague. It was like, we're moving away from half-hour comedies. But with Meaty, it's like, do you hate the character of me? Do you hate actual me? Am I just, like, the shittiest script writer? Like, I turned all of that inside because you don't know. And so, like, that part is tough, like, having your thing analyzed by, like, at least the people who are going to make it, but then to get the audience reaction. And so I just was like, thank God we are not making this show. I could not live through seeing all of the reaction, or no reaction. Who knows? Like, maybe no one would watch it and that would be stressful too. And then, like, keep a brave face while not defending myself. I couldn't do it. So the universe knew that I did not need to have a show about myself. So from now on, I'm going to write shows that are vaguely about, they're like me, but in disguise.
It's such a brutal business, the writing about yourself. And you're right, though, that the essays have so much context and you have control because it's truly your words.
Yeah.
You can shape them. There's a reason behind everything, and they're so beautiful to read. But the other forms of entertainment, say, are digested quite on far more face value. That's why I love a podcast conversation that isn't edited for these, weird clips, but we get the story, and therefore pretty much most people are, thoughtful in their own way. You might not agree with it. But we don't have much time. I feel like we've just chatted like friends, and I'm like, did we?
That's why
I'm like,
like
did we
talking
even?
to you.
Did we? I'm like, I can't even, like, what did we talk about? But in the best way, in the best way.
I don't want your readers to be mad if they have actual questions about this book.
They are going to be,
they could just listen to us chatting.
Also, the best thing is to listen and then want to read it for themselves. But I do have to ask my usual last question.
Ask me whatever you want.
What lights you up?
Man, what is lighting me up? You mean like a specific thing, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Could be anything.
I'm going to give you.
It's almost like when you go to a psychic and they say, Billy, and you're like, oh, that Billy from my, high school hockey class. And they're like, okay,
Yeah. The psychic's like, whew,
gotcha.
Thank God. Okay. I'm going to give some recommendations since I talked about liking things.
Good.
The show Jury Duty. It is on Amazon Prime. I haven't finished. Have you finished?
No. I haven't started. That's why I'm glad.
Please. As soon as we hang up, I mean, I know it's the middle of the workday, but as soon as we hang up, You must watch it. It's on Amazon Prime. It
Great.
is, I don't want to give anything away. It is so funny. And you know what? My wife loves it and she hates everything. So when she loves a show, I'm like, oh, this must really be a good show. I cry laughing every episode. It's like charming and like sweet, but not saccharine. It's so funny. And this is from a person, I will say that I don't love improv, and it's a ton of people doing improv work impeccably well, and it's so funny. So that is lighting me up. What am I reading? Oh, I'm reading this book called Big Swiss.
Oh,
Have you read
I've
that?
heard all about this. I love the cover so
Me
much.
too. It is like I'm in a real like in a real like wanting to find kind of female anti-heroes kind of, like I just want to read stuff about like gross women who are like mean or disappointing. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we read so many like, oh, she's sweet, and I want a little like, oh, is she out of her mind? And so the main character of Big Swiss is giving me a little of that. And it's like sexy and gay. It's so good. So those two things are like a
That's
match
brilliant.
under my butt. They are lighting me up.
Thank you so, so much. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to come and see you at one of your New York events, and I'll lurk in the background.
I will hear that the smooth dulcet tones, and I'll be like, my girlfriend.
Lit Up is a podcast from Sugar 23. It's hosted by me, Angela Ledgewood, and is produced by Liam Billingham. Olivia Allmeyer is the marketing and editorial consultant. Mike Mayer and Michael Sugar are the executive producers. Andrei Radovsky wrote the theme music. See you in 2 weeks.